falling faster. But if you're looking at me with a heart of doubt, don't kiss me right now. Don't tell me that you need me. Don't show up at my house all caught up in your feelings. Don't run me round and round. Don't build me up just to let me down. Just to let me down, down, down. Don't mess with my head. Don't tell me you're falling with your feet still on the ledge. I'm all out of breath. Baby, don't run me round and round. Don't kiss me, no, don't kiss me right now. On your lips, just leave it if you don't mean it. Hurry home, let's never leave the house. Did you mean it? Let's stay in there where all our friends go out. Did you mean it? Why you let those words come out of your mouth? If you mean it, you've been staring at me with a heart of doubt. Don't kiss me right now. Don't tell me that you need me. Don't show up at my house all caught up in your feelings. Don't run me round and round. Don't build me up just to let me down. Just to let me down, down, down. Don't mess with my head. Don't tell me you're falling with your feet still on the ledge. I'm all out of breath. Baby, don't run me round and round. Don't kiss me, no, don't kiss me right now. On your lips, just leave it if you don't mean it.
Recording in progress.
Alrighty. Good evening, everybody. How is everybody doing on a Wednesday? Wednesday night. Already mid-week, middle of the week. 2 more days. And it's gonna be the weekend. 5 more days and the business tax returns are or tax season for business returns is over. But wait, there's more. We still have end of the month for trust returns for the 1041s, then 1015 for the individuals. So yeah, we are so busy. Season for business returns is over. Right, so how about you guys? But wait, there's more. What keeps you busy? End of the month for trust returns. Busy with work, busy job hunting, busy then 1015, busy for learning from borderless accountants, from RUOL, from TBSA, from Bedrock, from BizDoc, and whatever else. Maybe Udemy, maybe YouTube. You have a lot of courses in YouTube. This Hector Garcia. Who else? I watch Hector. There's another one. If you want to learn taxes, what's his name? I like his contents. Dennis Carlton. So Dennis Carlton has got really good materials on tax strategies. I'll show you guys because we are so 7 na pala. Right. So may volunteer pa tayo to lead the prayer today. I hope meron. Do we have volunteers? All right, Leah. Leah, I'll call you shortly. Just give me 1 second. Let me just share my screen. Ano lang, segue lang tayo. Sandali. Sino uli yun? Si Dennis Carlton. So if you guys want to learn tax strategies, this guy's good. Ito, Carlton Dennis. He's got really good materials. basta anything to do with tax. He's also an enrolled agent. And then another one I would like to share with you, if you like want to polish your English, this one's really good. I follow him personally. I shared with the team last night about this guy. He's really good. Jefferson Fisher. This one is also good to follow. He's got really good contents about conversation or anything like that. So yeah, if you guys are interested in those things, you know, keeps you busy too, or keeps you away. You know, like if you're practicing the Pomodoro technique, you can use those as your, you know, 3 minute, 5 minute break, or however many minutes on a break. Just give me 1 second. Let me just set up my mic. Right. Oh shoot. Here we go. Alrighty. So Leah, you can take over and lead us in prayer.
Let's put ourselves in the holy presence of the Lord. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for letting us learn and grow through this bookkeeping training. We're thankful for our mentor, Chris, who guides us with patience and help us understand. Please bless me and my fellow trainees with the ability to pay attention, grasp the material, and work hard to learn all we can. We hope this training will give us useful skills and a sense of purpose, and that our efforts will make you proud. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
And thank you, Leah. Right. So, give me 1 second. All right. How's everybody doing? How are you guys? Are we good? Are we all good?
Good, Chris.
Very good, sir.
All right. Some people still call me Chris, coach, mentor, whatever. Just call me Chris, okay? I'll be happy to be called Chris. I cringe at the mention of the word mentor. I cringe at the word coach. You know, cringe, you know what the word means? Like, I don't know. Sa Bisaya, pahilas pa. Hilasan ko. So, I don't know what is there Tagalog word for hilas? But that's the literal translation for cringe.
Ayun, sabi ni
Right.
Maria Ave, kinikilabutan.
Yeah, kinikilabutan. That's not a good word. Anyways, yeah. All right. Thank you for the word. Kilabot pala. Hey, Ann. I hope you're enjoying Cebu. I'm sorry I was not able to spend time with you. I wish I could have stayed longer, but I had to go. I went to church after our meeting, and then I took a rest because I know that it's going to be a busy week this week, again, because it's a business tax deadline. But if you could come back, you know, we can catch up. I'll bring you over to Bohol. We can tour you around. After October 15, we are gonna be, I would say we are gonna be a little relaxed than how we're doing right now. So yeah, for now, enjoy Cebu. I hope you know you get to meet a lot of connections. I saw you were in Mabuhay. Mabuhay ba yun na building? No, not Mabuhay. HN Tower, I think. That's where the co-working space is located. I've
Yes,
been there.
oo, yeah.
Really good
Oo,
setup.
nag-enjoy ako dito, lakad-lakad. Ang dami kong steps. Naka-lechon,
Yeah.
talagang ginawang araw-araw ang lechon dito para lang siyang normal na pagkain, no?
Oh, wow. In IT Park, you have a 24-hour lechon na kainan. I forget the name. But I don't know sino dito taga IT Park. Basta may lechon nandyan na 24 hours open. And I also love their lechon. And yeah, IT Park, if you've been in Cebu, that's also actually IT Park is my most favorite place in the world, I would say. So every time I go to another country, I would go for a place that's open 24 hours. And so far, the only place I have been into na buhay kapag gabi is in IT Park sa Cebu and New York, of course, in Times Square. But I don't know. I don't like to stay up late sa New York. Parang buhay nga siya, but I don't know. It's different. In LA, in California, there's no 24-hour place na buhay. Maybe bars, clubs, or whatnot, but not for a place for introvert people like me. So yeah, I love IT Park. So if you're in Cebu, IT Park is a must place to visit. Right, and yan, hope you're enjoying your stay there. And yeah, we'll see you around again in person, in the flesh soon.
Next month, babalik kami with Bohol.
Right, Bohol, September ngayon, di ba? October. Make it third week or fourth week of October, and we would be able to accommodate you guys better. Okay, so having said that, ano nang ali, yung ano ko lang, share ko lang for the next 5 minutes. I just realized earlier when I was browsing through the YouTube channel that our live sessions are actually recorded and made available right away. No, and I would like to give credit to Andre for discovering the live feature and actually doing something about it, right? So we've been broadcasting our sessions live in YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. And I think it's been going on for a couple of weeks now. And the good thing about it is that in YouTube, it's again recorded. You can access it almost immediately after the session because Zara, the one who's in charge with our social media accounts, it's taking her time to edit the materials and publish the polished version in our playlist, right? So if you guys are wanting to catch up on the missed sessions and it's not yet posted on the main playlist account, you can go here. I'll show you. I also commented this in some of the GCs ng mga different accountability groups natin already. I think on 2 GCs. But for everybody to know, para kasi may iba dito nakaka-attend ng live, meron naman nakaka-attend ng live minsan and then nagkakapag-skip for various reasons. And so para maka-catch up kayo agad-agad, hindi na kayo maghihintay na i-post ni Zara yung polished version. Just go here. If you go to Borealis Accountants page, so see here, so you have playlists, right? So this is where the main videos are posted. So far for the tax, we have 31 videos posted for, or not, there's more than, but hindi lang natag ni Zara as a playlist. But you can also go here sa live na section, and you can see here all the live sessions, even the sessions that we're having right now. So pwede niyong balikan lang dito. Like I see a lot of people watching the live session. Some of them are watching live, really live, or some are just catching up. So yeah. And I would like to share with you guys that, nakaka-excite. If you look at our channel, we're growing, right? Now we are 1,500 people, right? And 15,000 views, right? And we've only been in YouTube for less than 2 months, I think, right? And I have not envisioned it to be this way, but super nakakatuwa because if you look at yung watch hours natin sa YouTube, nasa close to 4,000 na tayo. Diba? And if you think about it, I was even working the math last night. If we have about currently, last night we had 3,000 views already. What 3,000 hours? So 3,000 hours, and then kung ikaw yan, ikaw yung nag-spend ng 3,000 hours watching our materials. That means, and you are watching the videos 8 hours a day, right? So 3,000 hours divided by 8 hours a day. That means 375 days ka nang nanonood, right? That's more than a year. You know what I mean? And it's no joke. And if you also look at it, 3,000 divided by 8, kung 8 hours average, an average person watches the videos for 8 hours, that means we have 375 followers at least who are watching 8 hours worth of our videos, right? So it's just amazing, you know, that we're able to come this far, and we're really I also see comments, right? Like I would even respond to them. And I've been seeing, actually, I've been open dito. I don't know. I have not navigated YouTube a lot yet, but there were comments from people who are actually watching us straight from the United States, right? May isang caregiver, may isang nagfi-figure out what to do with his or her life, or, you know, what career to take. And so we are actually hitting the right audience as well, not just Filipinos in the Philippines, but also Filipinos in the US who can actually, who's actually in a better position to practice bookkeeping and tax, because mabilis na lang sa kanilang magkuha ng client, right? Kasi kung nandun na sila, their neighbors, their friends can actually become their tax clients, right? And I'm glad that they've, you know, come across our materials, because guys, ang mahal kumuha ng tax course sa US, dollars talaga, as in thousands of dollars. And I would also like to take this opportunity to show this to you, because I've looked it up online. I know I'm taking a lot of your time already, but AB2 Institute of Accounting, this is a business founded by the owners of TOA Global, right? And what they're doing is they're offering courses, US accounting and tax, and then there's a really interesting, because you can also take their course, right? Like I don't know, let me just Google it para lang mas mabilis. If you look at, let's say, US tax prep course in the Philippines, and they will be coming on top of the list because they have probably budgeted, or di na pala sila, right? Ito. So they have this offering, and of course we're not here because we're not spending ads, right? We're not spending on ads. And also I rely on your good hearts to like just share our content so we can come across on the feeds of other people who's, you know, looking to get themselves trainings on bookkeeping and tax. But yeah, there is a lot out there who's offering courses, right? And again, one of those is AB2 Institute. Let's just wait for this to load. I don't know what's going on. It's taking a lot of time to load. Bear with me, okay? I will make a point, I promise. So if you're in, because TOA Global is in, I don't know, they're in Cebu. They have big, I'm sure Yan is able to see it, right in front of the entrance of Central Block. That's the building where TOA Global is headquartered. And they have grown massively, as in super massive. They have locations in Pampanga, they have locations in Pasig, and I think they're building one they're building one in Davao. At least that's what I heard. I don't know. It's not cooperating, guys. But because I just really wanted to show you how much the course cost, right? So what they have is this accounting course with the tax component. You know how much this cost? Make a guess. Make a guess. How much AB2 Institute charges for a US tax prep course with a little bit of accounting? Who can guess? $5K, grabe naman yun. 14K, 10K, 17 na 19.5, 25K. I wish naglo-load siya, no, para ma-confirm natin. But meron dito may isang correct answer. So ang correct answer dito, for AB2, hindi naman siya USD. Hindi naman siya ganong 2K dollars. Sobrang mahal naman yan. 40K sobrang mahal naman. Tama yung sagot ni Felina, 19,500 for the course. Right? 19,500 for the course. And then once you finish the course, you will get a guaranteed employment interview. No, not employment. What was I talking about? You will have a guaranteed interview slot with them, right? So you can get interviewed, and then if they like you, you set a really good impression, you may be able to get a job, right? And TOA Global is a really good company as well. But they just have a different setup, because when you work for them, it's like a call center setup. You can't bring your phone with you. You have a specific schedule. There are rules, right? Because you're employed in an office setting, and it could be good for experience, but it's not sustainable, right? If you're someone who wanna be like me, who's borderless, in terms of location and time, that may not suit you. But if you want to give it a shot for a year or two, just so you can get the actual experience, then good, you can try that, right? Now it's finally loading. So see, 19,500, right? From 25,000. After that, you get a guaranteed interview. Once you complete all the full United States accounting course and have 12 months of accounting works, kailangan mo palang 12 months experience pa din. Ano ba yan? Hindi ko to nakita. You'll be introduced to a talent solution provider, TOA Global, for potential employment, taking you even closer to an international accounting career at a top United States firm. So this is something that you could also take. But mind you, again, yung tinuturo natin sa tax prep na nasa YouTube, na free, as in fee, free, no? That's all you would need to have to learn US accounting, individual, right? That's the best you can find. I can almost certainly say that with confidence, okay? No one is ever going to give you that level of training, right? 75 hours, maybe even more, right? Maybe even more. No way this course matches that. No way, right? I'm confident about that. So I'm just showing this to you because you have an option, right? If you want to get an employment, you have an experience already, you can pay this amount, pay TOA Global, get an interview with them. And if you're someone who's young, with no commitments at all, you can explore working in an office setting, again, so that you can get the experience, right? And you can get the network as well. Kasi iba-iba naman tayo ng approach in how we could learn and how we could also land a potential employer, right? But this is good, right? This is good. But I can tell you again, ours is better and you're getting it for free, right? So imagine this one, 51 episodes. We're not even done here. There's more than 51 episodes in tax prep. And we're talking about actual application in ProConnect and Drake, right? Nobody comes close to what we offer. So yeah, ano bang pinagsasabi ko? So that's AB2 Institute, and there's a lot more, right? Liberty Tax, if you're in the US, they also offer tax prep courses, and those are dollars, right? Those are expensive. But I'm glad that people are discovering our YouTube channel, because again, I can say it with confidence that if sundin mo lang tong mga tutorials natin dito, hindi ka magsisisi, guys, right? And if you do a really good job, you stand out. Hindi mo kailangan ng TOA Global to get employment. you can come to me, ask me if I have a position for you. I may have one for you, right? I could have one for you, right? That is if magaling ka talaga, right? Because I'm not gonna hire just anybody, right? Um, I have Kendall who I can introduce you to get that employment if magaling ka talaga and you are able to prove that to me. Okay? Yan lang naman yun. But you don't have to pay. And then another thing is ano pa ba yung isang nasa utak ko? Huwag na nga lang, bukas na para magkapag-start na tayo. Diba? Kasi goal natin matapos tayo ng end of the month this month para makapag-start agad tayo ng business. Right? Kasi very, very important yun sa inyo na matuto kayo sa business. Tax preparation, especially if nagbubookkeeping na kayo, right? Dito ba si Jessica? Jessica, we haven't met yet. We have not done that video call yet, but I would really love to meet with you to discuss how we can, form. Because I have not also really have a structure on what we can do moving forward. For those who have a bookkeeping client who wants to convert your bookkeeping client to, a tax tested this, Randy from BizDoc. He just passed his enrolled agent exam already. And then soon enough, he will get that EA certificate from the IRS. But just like me, Randy cannot file a tax return using his own software. Why? Because wala siyang EFIN, right? And he will not be able to get EFIN. I will not be able to get an EFIN because we don't have a social security number, right? Unless we have a social security number, we would not be able to have our own tax software where we can file tax return. So the least thing we can do is we partner with a tax firm owner in the US, just like Cristal, na meron ng EFIN and tax software, and that we can file the tax return from using their software. We can prepare it, we can invoice the client, we can have it reviewed, and then e-file. But then we are going to be using EFIN of a tax practitioner in the US who already has an EFIN. Okay, but that's a topic for another time. I'm just trying to figure out why is it that my screen is okay, because I'm not sharing my screen yet. You guys can still hear me okay, right? I feel like the internet is very slow and the videos of you guys on my screen are like it's either frozen or there's delay. You guys can hear me okay, correct?
Yes, Chris.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All righty. So, well, let's continue where we left off yesterday. Yesterday, we were able to talk about the general ledger, right? And by now, it should already be clear in your minds what the general ledger is, how it's different from chart of accounts and general journal or the journal. Am I hearing a yes here? Do you guys now understand what a GL is? You will not be able to confuse a GL with a chart of account or a journal entry. Right, let me see. My connection is really slow right now. Elon Musk is okay. Now I know. Bear with me. You may lose me for a few seconds only because I'm connected to another network. Let me switch to a different network, okay? Give me just a minute or two. Andrew is not using Starlink. You keep using the other connection, and it's very slow if I use that using my computer. You guys can still hear me okay, right? I just switched network.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. It's amazing. I had switched network, but my screen is not disconnected. Anyways, so yeah, I think my network is better now. I thought it was the Starlink that was slow. It was the other connection, which serves as a backup. Anyway, let's continue now. So yesterday we also learned that we have just already completed the first step in the accounting cycle. Again, the collection of documents and the analysis, right? So by now you already have a good appreciation of that first step, right? You cannot just go and skip that first step and go proceed with the recording right away. Because again, the moment you fail to analyze the transaction appropriately, it will have significant impact on your financial report. You know what I mean? Because yesterday we also talked about the interconnectedness of the transactions, right? If you start your books the wrong way, you will have everything wrong as well, right? It would follow kasi may mga effect yan, right? And sometimes when we don't have the right training, we don't have the right competence, we may think that we've done things right because we don't have the ability to self-review our own work, right? But if we have the right training and later on we discovered mistake when we look at the financial statements, then we would know how to correct them, right? Minsan then we know what the mistake is, and instead of correcting the mistake, we're making the book even messier than how messy it was prior to you discovering the mistake, right? So you mistake, you corrected with another mistake. Again, because you don't have the right training, you don't have the right understanding of how bookkeeping really works. No, yung learning is nasa surface lang, kumbaga. No real understanding of how it really works on the ground, and that could cause you to lose clients in the process, because clients, when they see so many errors, so many mistakes, they lose faith in what you do, right? Because we are supposed to be accountants, our nature is supposed to be thorough, detail oriented. That's supposed to be the character of an accountant, right? But if we're not demonstrating that because we make so many mistakes in what we do, then we will lose the trust of our clients, right? Be it a tax firm that we're working for, or be it a taxpayer client that we're preparing the books and the tax returns for, right? So it's important again to invest in education, right? We start the thing right. Right. Having said that, we are now down to the second step of the accounting cycle. Again, anim lang yung accounting cycle, right? Anim lang yan. Yung iba madali na nga lang. But we have just completed the collection and the analysis of transactions. And now we're moving on to the recording and posting of transactions. Are you guys excited? So 1 down, 5 more to go. Right, bless you. So bookkeeping glossary, we are just gonna skip through that. And now we're gonna go to the double entry bookkeeping. So unless may mag-volunteer, because you guys are tired with my voice, I will just go and read it, okay? I know it's gonna be hurtful to the ears to some of you, but this way we can do it faster, okay? So the double entry bookkeeping, what is it about? So double entry bookkeeping is a way to track financial transactions. Every transaction is recorded twice, once as a debit and once as a credit. This ensures that the accounting records are accurate and balanced. T-charts are a simple way to visualize double entry bookkeeping. They can be used to track the financial information of a business or individual. The debit and credit entries in a T-chart must always balance. Explore more about double entry bookkeeping, balancing debits and credits, and reporting T-charts in the tabbed interaction that follows. So T-chart, in other terminology, what I'm used to in college is the T accounts, right? The T accounts. And you've also seen how double entry bookkeeping works, right? Again, there's always going to be a debit and a credit, and in every transaction, there's always 2 accounts that's going to be affected, right? And yesterday, medyo nalito nga si Shawnee, because Shoni is an accountant, and when she heard the word split, she immediately thought of a um, a, com- a compound entry, because there are journal entries wherein more than two accounts are involved, right? So it could be one debit, two credits, right? Or two debits, one credit. Those could happen, right? But they are still considered as double entry, right? Double entry because again, my debit and my credit. It's always going to be like that in accounting. Clear so far? Right. So double entry bookkeeping is a method of recording financial transactions that ensures accuracy and balance in accounting records. It follows the principle that every transaction has two aspects, a debit and a credit. Both aspects must be recorded to maintain the equilibrium of the accounting equation. The accounting equation states that assets is equal to liabilities plus. This equation forms the foundation of double entry bookkeeping and ensures that the financial records remain in balance, right? So we've already tackled this. Let's not expound on that anymore, unless gusto niyo musuka. Charet. So balancing. In double entry bookkeeping, you keep track of increases and decreases using the debit and credit columns. When a transaction occurs, it is recorded with at least one debit, again, at least one debit and one credit. Take note, the keyword there is at least. Again, there could be instances where there will be more than just one debit and more than one credit, right? But at least there's always going to be at least one debit and credit entry. Now, the trick is to make sure that the total amount of debits matches the total amount of credits for each transaction. It's a balancing act. If the debits and credits don't match, something is off, and you need to review the entries. By ensuring balance, you maintain accurate financial records and understand the effect of each transaction on different accounts. So remember, it's all about recording increases and decreases in the right columns and making sure the debits and credits stay in harmony, right? How does that work, right? In our actual or our manual working file, when you go to the transactions, see the transactions will always have a debit and will always have a credit, right? The moment you only record a debit, you will cause an imbalance on your accounting equation, right? It will cause an imbalance. For example, let's do a validation here. If this one is equal to, sorry, is equal, no, wait, is my equal here, then let's say perfect ang double entry. Otherwise, you say, please check your entry, right? Or shoot, why is my formula wrong? One moment. Oh God, I don't like my keyboard. Where is my close parenthesis? Oh my goodness. Those guys. Okay, there. So perfect and double entry, right? Because we have a credit and a debit, right? Let's highlight that in yellow, or let's do the other way around. Para lang prominent yung ating validation, right? And let's make that bold. And we'll make it even bigger. Where is my font? I don't know. Here, right? So the moment we make a mistake, right? Like your office supplies is 5,000 debit and your cash in hand, you made a mistake of 4,000, right? Look at what happens. So sabi niya dito, please check your entry, right? Because you're not doing the right thing, right? Yung timbangan mo pa ganon, right? Because you have more debit than your credit. So that's That's how it works. It has to be in sync. What your amount in your debit should also be the same amount as in your credit. Making sense? This is the double entry. So there's always going to be impact on either the right side or the credit side, the left or the right side of your accounting equation. Making sense so far?
Yes po.
All right. On the reporting, you will report using a T chart or T account. This organizes your client's financial information in a neat and structured way. Imagine a vertical line in the middle of the page, creating two columns. On the left side, we record the debits, representing increases in assets or expenses. On the right side, we record the credits, which reflect increases in liabilities, equity, or revenues. This format helps us quickly identify and analyze the impact of each entry, making financial reporting precise and organized. So remember, debits on the left and credits on the right as we create our T charts or T accounts. So this is a T accounts. It's called T accounts because it resembles the letter T, right? Hindi naman siya X account or whatever. It's T accounts, right? Debits and credits. And that is why when I also created this recording transaction, you see, I put debit intentionally on the left side and credit next to it, right? I could have done credit on the left side, debit on the credit side, but I didn't do that because I am following the T account concept. Okay, so debit versus credit. Let's look at the difference between debits and credits. Select the cards to read the other side. So debits. A debit is an increase in assets or liability or expenses, or a decrease in liabilities, owner's equity, or revenue. So, and a credit is a decrease in assets or expenses, or an increase in liabilities, owner's equity, or revenue. So this is your normal balance, right? So if we put that into context, let's use this here, somewhere down here. So this is debit. And this is, okay, we already have label up there. So let's not be redundant. So these are your account types, right? Asset, or your accounting equation, right? This is asset, this is liabilities, this is equity. And again, equity is further, how do I say that? Income and expenses are implicit in the equity in the equity account. So income and then expenses, right? So these are your account types. So every time you debit an asset, you are increasing the asset, right? And every time you credit the asset, it decreases, right? However, liabilities and equity behave the other way around, right? So every time you debit a liability account, it decreases, right? And if you credit it, it actually increases. Or let's say you just make it generic. So debit, this is decrease. And then same, liabilities and equity are the same thing, right? So why is that? Remember again that this is like your T accounts too. This is your asset side, and this is your liability and equity side, right? So the asset is on the right side. The liability and the equity is on the right side. Sorry, this is on the left side, and this is on the right side. You get what I'm saying? Right? So every time that these accounts are debited, they are increasing. Right? And every time they're credited, they're decreasing because the normal balance is on the left side. You get what I'm saying? And such is the opposite between liabilities and equity. Kasi nasa credit side siya. Right? So they're on the opposite side of the spectrum. You get what I'm saying? So again, asset is behaving this way. Liabilities and equity are behaving the other way around. Now let's further complicate that. Income and expenses, this behave the same way as your liabilities and equity. So let's simply copy that. So income is a credit account as the normal balance, right? So every time you credit an income account, you're increasing it. Every time you debit it, you're decreasing it. Income is the opposite of expense, right? So it also behaves the other way around, right? So expenses follows the normal balance behavior of the asset. So it works that way. So remember that, okay? This is how you understand normal balances, right? This will come into very good use when you start discovering mistakes, right? Because when you start discovering mistake, the first question that should go into your head is that how was this transaction recorded in the books, right? You will then imagine what was the underlying journal entry in the books, right? So that you would know how to correct that mistake. You get what I mean? So you have to go back to how it was journalized or how it was recorded so that you can make the necessary correction. Okay, if it's too much to digest for now, it's okay. I will make it a little lighter as we go along. Okay, but you just have to remember this. These are the normal balances for assets and expenses, and these are the normal balances for the liabilities and equity. And if I may just continue, unless there's anyone who wants to add to that. So DEALER, what is this? So DEA or LER is an acronym that can help you understand debits and credits in accounting. Let's find out what DEA LER is about. Parang dealer pala, no? So dealer. Hindi ko din alam to. So I'm excited to find what this is about. Right, so magandang acronym to, ha? Dealer. And let's find out what that is. Ta-da!
Introducing Dealer, your key to understanding debits and credits in accounting. First, let's look at the D, E, A in Dealer. D stands for dividends, E stands for expenses, and A stands for assets. When we debit one of these accounts, we're increasing its value. When a client has expenses like office supplies, or when they buy assets the business will own, such as equipment or inventory, we debit those accounts. This means they go on the left side of our financial equation. For example, when we debit an asset account, we're increasing its value, and since assets increase value, assets will also be debited, so this goes on the left side. Next, let's look at the L, the E, and the R in Dealer. L stands for liabilities, E stands for equity, and R stands for revenue. When we credit one of these accounts, it indicates an increase in liabilities, equity, or revenue. So when a business has liabilities like loans or accounts payable, or when it has equity from owner investments or retained earnings, or when it generates revenue from sales or services, we credit those accounts. This means they go on the right side of our financial equation. Dealer reminds us that when we debit an expense or asset account, we increase its value, and it goes on the left side of the equation. On the other hand, when we credit a liability, equity, or revenue account, we increase its value, and it goes on the right side of the equation. And there you have it. Dealer helps you understand which side of the accounting equation debits and credits belong to.
That was new, right? Because they have added dividends, but we're not gonna tackle dividends now because for one, kung may accounting background ka, alam mo na yun. Kung wala ka namang accounting background, it might be too much for you to understand what dividends are at this point. Okay, so let's skip that. But we'll answer the knowledge check. Why is the dealer acronym useful in accounting? All right, tulungan niya ako dito. So why is the dealer acronym useful in accounting? Is it because it helps you understand which side of the accounting equation debits and credits belong to? Or is it because it provides a step-by-step process for recording transactions? Or is it because it ensures accurate calculation of financial ratios? Or finally, that it helps in identifying tax obligations? So parang ito out of topic naman to, right? So no way this could be the answer. Ito din. Bakit may financial ratios? Ang aga-aga pa ng ating discussion. So no way this could be the correct answer, right? That's common sense. This one, it provides a step-by-step process for recording transactions. Maybe not necessarily. Or let's look this up. It helps you understand which side of the accounting equation debits and credits belong to. So this is likely the correct answer. Let's check your answers. All right, everyone's saying A. And I think I'm also inclined to take letter A as the answer. Let's find that out. Submit. Correct. So the dealer acronym is a useful tool in accounting as it helps you understand which side of the accounting equation debit and credit belongs to. All right, next one. What is the purpose of double entry bookkeeping? Is it to track revenue and expenses? Is it to calculate net income? Is it to ensure accuracy and maintain the balance in the accounts? Or is it D, or the final answer, to determine tax liabilities? So nabanggit na to kanina that the purpose of double entry bookkeeping is to for the accuracy and maintain the balance in the accounts, right? Because if you enter a transaction, it's only on the debit side, you know what happens, right? You know what happens in here. If you enter a transaction and it's not double entry, because hindi ka nag-aral sa BA, nag-record ka ng office supplies, nilagay mo lang dyan 5,000, pwede naman, di ba? You can do that, but wait and see what happens to your accounting equation. It's no longer correct, right? So that's the purpose of double entry bookkeeping. It ensures that there's accuracy in the recording and that the balance on the account is maintained, meaning there's balance in the accounting equation. Make sense? So that's double entry bookkeeping. Yung iba kasi, like for example, yung typical na mga tindahan, hindi naman yan sila nagda-double entry bookkeeping, right? Because what they do is lista lang sila ng sales, lista lang sila ng expenses, walang ganitong debit credit. Pwede naman yun, pero magulo nga lang yun, right? It's a very, I would say, rudimentary approach of maintaining an accounting. It's as if they're already building a profit and loss statement right away, right? It's like this, right? So they record their income, their expenses, they just total it, right? And then they come up with like something like this, right? Again, that's also okay, right? That's rudimentary approach of recording your transactions. But once the business scales up, right? Once the business scales up, meaning lumago na yung business, that type of recording may no longer work, right? Because that's not auditable. For one, hirap i-track yung mga mali sa recording, right? So the double entry is the best approach towards maintaining or recording every transaction, right? So again, pwede ba yung single entry? Pwede naman. Again, pwede naman. Nothing should prevent you from doing single entry, but it's not sustainable, right? So let's check natin kung tama ba yung ating sagot. And lo and behold, that is correct. So the purpose of double entry bookkeeping is to ensure accuracy and maintain the balance in accounts by recording equal and opposite debits and credits for each transaction. Right? Bakit diretso na tayo sa reconciling transactions? So in this case, let's just demonstrate how T accounts work. Okay? Kasi hinintay kung meron siyang emphasis ng T accounts eh. Kaya nga, this is where you will appreciate our course because we will add value to you, right? Kung ikaw lang itong nag-aaral nito, next ka lang, tapos hindi ka naman, wala namang background ng accounting, it may be difficult for you to understand. But in this course, I will personally make sure that you're able to understand the lesson, right? Hindi lang yung nagbasa ka lang and then pinasa mo yung exam kasi you just repeat the exam every until you pass it, right? That's not the sustainable way of learning how to do bookkeeping, right? So let's do chart of accounts. For example, follow natin yung demonstration or how T accounts look like. So for example, this is a T account for cash on hand. Right, so let's put this in the middle. And then let's do debit here. And let's do credit, right? Then again, let's put this in the middle. You guys can see my screen okay, right?
Yes
So let's
po.
put
Yes.
let's resemble this as if it's a T account. So let's put a border here and then a border over here. Diba? So para na siyang chart of accounts. Isn't it amazing? All right, so what the chart of accounts look like is this one. Let's say, for example, cash on hand. Hanapin natin yung mga transactions here involving cash on hand. So meron dito, di ba? We can use the Excel function para mapadali ang buhay natin. So we do formatting, conditional formatting. If we can say if the cell contains cash on hand, right? We'll color that, right? So, madali na lang natin i-pinpoint kung ano yung mga cash, saan yung mga transactions involving cash on hand, right? So, let's say, for example, on the date of 1/3, so January 3, there was a debit of cash on hand of 50,000, right? That's how it should look like. And then another transaction involving cash on hand is on 1/17, right? So 1/17 is a credit, right? A credit of 10,000. That's just one thing you need to know about me is that I'm very critical with numbers. Like if I see an Excel file at ganito yung numbers, I'm gonna hate you. Right? I'm gonna hate you if I see a number like written like this, right? So I always want my numbers with a separator, right? So if you work with me, you have to have your numbers like this, not the one earlier, because I'm really gonna hate you. Not kidding, right? So 118 is 7,000, right? And then what else? 129 is a credit. How much? 8,300. And then another one, 130, you have 3,500 debit, right? And then another one, 130 debit of 10,000, right? And then 130 again, it's 5,000. Credit, 5,000.
Credit.
Right. So at the end of the month, you total whatever your total debit is. And then you also total your total credits. And again, the normal balance for a cash on hand, which is an asset, is debit, right? So what you do is you do this 123 minus credit. That is your ending balance of your cash, right? So let's see if we are correct. We are not correct, right? Why? Because in our balance sheet, it says 85,200. It should be 85,200. Where have we gone wrong? So 1,350, 10K, 70, 83, 35, 10, and then 5. Where have we gone wrong?
is meron pang
And if
1 January 30 cash
figure
on
it
hand,
your
5,000.
cash on hand should be 85,200 using this formula right here. There is a 5K on January 30. Yeah, 5K on January 30 is 5,000. It's a credit, right? And then another 130 cash on hand credit of 10,000. So this is an audit, guys, right? This is an audit. 3583 70. I don't know what's going on here. 5K on
After
January
8,300. After 8,300, may cash on hand.
total Q24. Tama naman. 2 yung naka 5K sa 130. Tama ba? Okay, this one.
May 5,000 before
Ano ba yan?
3,500.
May 5,000 pa na salaries. Good job, guys. So 130. And we can just do format. This is format painter, right? So you copy that formatting right there, so that hindi naman maganda naman tingnan yung ating T accounts, right? So now it's 38,200. So yung balance niya as of 130 is 85,200. This is how your T accounts look like, right? So every time you debit the cash on hand, it increases, right? Every time you credit, it will decrease the balance, right? You get what I'm saying? So that's how it looks like. Let's look for another account. Let's say accounts payable. How many transactions do we have as accounts payable? Parang isa lang, no? 8,000. Isa lang. So kung accounts payable naman, in a chart of account, that would look like this. So let's just copy that one we have above, and then delete lang natin to. Delete the date as well. And then this is your accounts payable. Can you have it? Or ito na lang. Owner's contribution na lang. Para match natin. Owner's contribution. So kung ang entry na to, January 3, was a debit to cash on hand, there's also a credit, right? Which is the owner's contribution on January 3rd. So January 3rd, on the other side of the equation, you will have a credit to owner's contribution of 50,000. Right? That's how it will look like. And if you bring down naman the balance of credit, owner's contribution, because yung owner's contribution normal balance niya is credit, when you bring down the balance, it should be this minus this, right? So that's going to be how your ending balance is going to look like. This is how a T accounts would look like, guys. But again, this is just for demonstration para maintindihan nyo how what the T accounts was for in this presentation. Now, question, will you be doing T accounts really in real life? No, you won't, right? You won't. And when you use QuickBooks, Xero, whatever tax software your client is using, you're not going to be doing T accounts, right? But if you know how the accounts work, because you understand T accounts, then you're in a much better position, right? This is the why behind the why. This is the why behind the how. You get what I'm saying? And if it doesn't make sense to you now, it's okay. It will gonna make sense as you go along, okay? But that's how the T accounts work, okay? Now let's move on to reconciling transactions. So lesson 3 of 10, again, this is estimated to be 50 minutes. So matatapos natin to hopefully before 9. So reconciling transactions. Why reconcile the transactions? So the purpose of reconciliation is to verify that all transactions have been recorded precisely in the right places and in the right amounts. This helps to ensure that the financial records are accurate and reliable. In accounting, reconciliation is often used to compare the balance of a ledger account to the balance of a supporting document, such as a bank statement or a credit card statement. So keywords here to help ensure that the financial records are accurate and reliable. So if your balance or if your financial report is not accurate, would it still be reliable? It's a question, guys. I need your answer. If your financial statements is not accurate, is it still reliable?
No.
What do you think? Is it a flat out no? Maybe. Depends. Yes.
Oh.
Right? So this is a point where it can be argued, right? Just because it's not accurate may not necessarily mean it's not reliable. Again, consider the principle of materiality, right? If hindi siya accurate because minadali mo, because there's the need for the report is imminent, right? Then you may compromise accuracy to make your report timely, right? And then you consider the materiality threshold, right? So even if it's not accurate, it may still be reliable. You get my point? Kasi if like you're talking about millions in revenue, right? And you're just looking for you're just waiting for a transaction that you are not sure what the amount is because you're still waiting for a confirmation from your cashier, for example. And that amount if you're talking about is only like 1,000 or maybe even less. And then it's about time for you to submit the report because your boss needs the report. Would you say to your boss, I'm not going to give you the report because it's not going to be reliable because there's still transaction that I'm waiting for? Would you tell your boss that? Kasi kung ako yung boss mo, iti-terminate kita right there and then. Know what I'm saying? Or, before kita iti-terminate, I'm gonna ask you, Chris, what transaction are we talking about? And how much is it? How much is it? How much are we talking about? And you tell me, it's just actually around the ballpark figure of maybe 1,000. And I would tell you, as someone needing the report, give it to me. We can take care of that later. That's too immaterial. You get what I'm saying? Because I need the report now. Am I getting my point across, or someone is disagreeing with my point and can make a strong rebuttal to that? I'm okay, right? We can discuss these things. This could be very subjective. And this is where professional judgment comes into play as well, right? So, ang mga accountants naman ay nag-agree. So, yeah, sometimes, even if it's not accurate, depends on the materiality threshold, it could still be reliable. You get what I'm saying? In a perfect world, you would want the report to be accurate and timely. But sometimes, though, in real practice, those could go in conflict. You know what I mean? Right.
Yes,
So I'm glad that I'm making my point across. JR, I think it depends on the client if he does not pay attention to small amounts because accuracy also helps for greater strategies to improve the business. Again, kung ang client mo ay very, ano mong tawag doon, OC, di ba? Obsessive compulsive, na they want everything to the T, right? It could matter, right? But again, that's where your professional judgment will come into play. All right. Yeah, so reconciliation, introduction. Reconciliation involves comparing entries in the ledger or journal to available documentation such as receipts and invoices. By performing this process, you can verify that all transactions have been recorded correctly in the right places and with the accurate amounts. So let's emphasize on this later, but for now, let's start this. So steps in doing the reconciliation. Step 1, you gather the documentation. So in this step, gather all relevant documentation such as receipts, invoices, bank statements, and other supporting records. These documents will be your reference for comparing and validating the recorded transactions. Next, compare entries. Next, carefully compare the entries in the general journal with the corresponding documentation. Ensure that the transactions regarding the accounts affected the amounts involved and the transaction dates are accurately recorded. So what are we talking about here? So if you're doing reconciliation, maybe you're not doing the recording, right? Or maybe you're doing the recording and at the end of the reporting period, before you finalize the report, you're doing the reconciliation to make sure that you're doing, you have not missed on anything, right? So how does that work in our example? So if we have these transactions at the end of the month, and you just want to be sure how to make sure that everything is recorded properly, you can go through each transaction and the supporting document. So like this one, owner's contribution, where could you find this? It could be in the bank statement, right? Service income, this could be from the invoices, right? Office supplies, this could be from the receipts. So those are various documents that you will need to gather to cross-check if those documents are either recorded in the journal or if your journal is complete, right? Because it could be the other way around, wherein you see this you see these transactions and you have receipts in your hand that were not yet recorded, right? So now you have a completeness issue, right? Because not everything is recorded. You can also find out that some amounts are not recorded properly, right? But looking at the bank statement, you see that the cash distribution from the owner was actually just 50, let's say 45,000, right? Those are what you can find out when you do reconciliation, right? And one example of a reconciliation is bank reconciliation, right? But we'll tackle that for another session. I believe that there is another topic on bank reconciliation, but again, bank recon is just one function where we can do reconciliation. It's not just the bank. It could also be invoices. It could also be accounts payable. It could also be loans. It could also be accounts payable, right? Depends on the nature of the business, right? So, but pinaka popular na term is bank reconciliation, right? Kaya minsan din, ang concept natin when we're doing bookkeeping is that once we reconcile the books in QuickBooks, tapos na yung work natin as bookkeeper. No, it's not. Okay? I'm telling you, no, it's not. Bookkeeping is not tantamount to bank reconciliation. Bank reconciliation is just one facet of bookkeeping, right? But some or so many people, based on my actual experience, would equate bank reconciliation to bookkeeping. And that's a flat out wrong statement. Okay? So bank recon is just a part of the bookkeeping activity. Right. So again, that's example. First, you gather the documents, and then you start to compare the entries. So compare what the document is saying versus what was entered in the books. Next is you check for accuracy, right? Sometimes it's not about the completeness of the transaction. It could also be accuracy. Some amounts may be incorrectly inputted, right? So in this case, for example, akala mo tama ka because and yung validation check mo is perfect naman. What if ang mali mo is actually you entered 45,000 instead of 50,000 and you entered it in both accounts, right? If you do it that way, your validation is still perfect, right? But you actually made a mistake by inputting the incorrect amount, right? And how can you validate that this was a mistake? It's in a bank statement. You got what I'm saying? So this is again one way to do self-check. And again, I'll come back to the question of Aya before. The amount we can check, right? But what about the account titles? Because it could be an account title issue, right? You use the incorrect account title, right? So when you look at the transaction in the receipts, in the invoice, in the bank statements, if the transaction does not make sense, then you'll have to correct that, okay? So that's accuracy. Next is identify discrepancies. So if there's discrepancies or differences are found during the comparison, investigate and identify the reasons for the errors or omissions. Common causes can include data entry errors, missing documents, or incorrect categorization of transactions. This is very common, incorrect categorization of transactions. Again, very, 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 very common, right? One common on a bank statement, even if, I mean, in bank statement, that's where usually the sales are recorded from, right? So if there are deposits, that's likely sales. But just because it's a deposit, that doesn't mean it's a sale, right? You may have to look into the description of the transaction because it may not be sales, right? It could be a refund from a customer, right? You get what I'm saying? So it could be a refund from, say, for example, I'll tell you a story. Meron pa naman tayong 15 minutes. In the US, it's very easy to buy something and then return it for no reason. Like you just simply change your mind. And I can tell you that because I've been doing that in my last time I was in the US. I purchased this really beautiful shoes because I was in a subway and then kaharap ko, ang ganda ng shoes niya. Chinese na guy na I think he immigrated to the US. So he was sitting right right in front of me. And then nakita ko, shit, ang ganda ng shoes. Right? So I discreetly took a photo of the shoes, yung shoes lang naman. And then I went to the store, right? I checked how much the price is and stuff. Hindi ko muna may binili, right? But then, because wala pa naman akong lakad. And so when I had a lakad already, the day before that, I bought the shoes, right? I bought the shoes. And that was ang ganda sa picture and stuff. But then, as I was about to leave New York for California, sa US, ang mahal nung baggage nila. Like, we are so lucky, like we're in the Philippines. Alam ko mahal din naman yung baggage natin sa Cebu Pacific, Philippine Airlines. But let's like 100 pesos lang naman. Like if you have 15 baggage na check-in in Cebu Pacific, I think it's gonna cost you less than $1,000. But sa US, ang mahal na yun. It's like close to 5,000 pesos, right? For a tiny baggage that you will check in. So I don't want to have that problem na kailangan ko mag-check in ng baggage. So I have to unload. I have to travel light. And so what I did before my flight, isinole ko yung shoes. And then sabi nung nasa counter, why are you returning this? I just changed my mind. And then yeah, tinake niya. And then I got a refund on my, kasi I used my credit card. I get the refund from my credit card, right? And mga gadgets, right? Gadgets, like if you go to ano ba mga Best Buy. Yeah, Best Buy is one store. In the US, at some point, hindi ko nga lang na-take ng picture, but at some point during the tax course, guys, I bought in Best Buy yung malaking TV na curved. Tapos nag-invest ako ng wireless mouse, keyboard, and then microphone na high-end. Tapos, sa Best Buy kasi 15 days lang siya. After 15 days, kung hindi mo sinoli yung item, hindi mo na siya pwedeng isoli. So, mga 14 days or 13 days, pumunta ako sa Best Buy, sinoli ko lahat. Right? From the TV, from the mic, the keyboard. I know it sounds stupid, right? But, paano ko naman dadalhin yung TV at yung mga keyboard dito sa Pinas, diba? So, ano lang, ginamit ko lang yun because it's a privilege, right? Everybody can do that. And everybody's been doing that. Like, for example, jacket. Like, kung malamig, di ba? I experienced that when I went to mga May, medyo maulan pa, tsaka medyo malamig pa. So what I would do is I go to a mall and then I'll buy a jacket kasi yung jacket or anything clothing, basta hindi mo lang tinanggal yung tawag dito, yung sinascan sa barcode tag. If you don't remove the tag, you can return it, right? And that's what I've been doing. I would buy a warmer, and then the day after I would return it, right? So that happens. It's common, right? And why am I sharing that with you is because you may see this in the bank transactions of your client, right? Transactions that are coming from Best Buy, coming from ano pa bang pwedeng i-return? Any malls, for example, and you see that it's a debit to the bank, right? And a debit to the bank. And then Best Buy yung nakalagay. It's not sales, for God's sake, right? It's not sales. It's refunds. Right? So how will I demonstrate that in QuickBooks in a manual books, for example? So insert natin to. So for example, on a bank statement, you saw that there was a purchase, let's say January ngayon. So January 29, there was an office equipment that was purchased, right? Let's say, meron ba tayong GOA na office equipment? Computer equipment na lang. Meron office equipment. I'll just copy that. So you recorded this transaction as office equipment, right? Let's say 500. And then this is a transaction that is purchase in cash, right? Purchase in cash. So clearly this is an expense, correct? Sorry. Hindi na lang cash kasi cash walang statement eh. Meron tayong cash in bank na account. So let's say this was purchased using a debit card, right? Yung bank kasi nakalink sa kanyang debit card. So this transaction was initially recorded as this, right? Now, this is January. Now, let's say before 15 days, sinuli ni client yung equipment, right? So this is, for example, purchase of a monitor from Best Buy. So that's it, right? Now, you saw in the statement, for example, 10 of February, may nakita ka dong transaction sa bank, right? 500 from Best Buy. Now, because hindi ka nag-train sa borderless accountant, nakita mo yung deposit sa cash sa bank, ginawa mo agad lahat sales. 500. No, sorry, cash in bank. 500 and then sales agad yung ginawa mo. You classified it as sales. And then nakalagay dito Best Buy. Kasi, again, hindi ka nag-train. Is this correct? Is that correct, guys? Tingnan niyo yung validation. Sabi niya, please check your end bracket. Wait lang. 168, 200, 500. Mayroon tayong account na ginamit na hindi naman. Okay, service income. Walang sales kasi sa chart of accounts natin. Gawin na lang nating service income to. Again, wala kasing sales sa chart of accounts. So that's why nag-error tayo. But see, perfect na. So in this example, our validation says perfect. But is there something wrong with this transaction? Sorry, hindi na ako nakasunod sa chat. Right, so this is wrong, right? You're actually overstating the income, right? Because this is not an income. And then you are understating the expense. You're understating the expense. Sorry, you're overstating the expense and then you're overstating the income. You get what I'm saying? So hindi siya correct, right? Again, most people make this as a mistake because, again, when they see that there's a deposit in the bank of 500, automatic sales. And that should not be the case, right? That should not be the case. You have to know the nature of the transaction. How would you know the nature of the transaction? You will see that as a memo, right? I'll show you that. I'll give you an example of how that looks like in the test drive, right? So because in QBO, this is how we categorize. Wala namang ganito sa QBO eh. Walang ganitong entry sa QBO. Hindi ka nagaganito, right? So let's put that into context using the test drive. Where is the test drive? Sorry, nag-ano na siya. QBO test environment. Andito ba si Jade? Dito ba si Queenie? Right? Queenie, this is what you're doing. Your categorization,
Yes po, sir. I'm
right?
here, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
good. So you should be able to relate to this. Again, not all not all bank deposits are sales, right? And so far, when I look at your work, I would say 80-90% okay naman, pero merong nami-miss pa din, right? So, but you're getting the point, right? I'm asking you, when you see a bank deposit and it shows a vendor, you categorize it still as an expense, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Because I see that's what you've been doing, and that's good. Jade, by the way, is doing bank categorization for bank transactions. She's not even an accountant. She's not even an accounting graduate, but she's preparing profit and loss statement, guys. And you will meet her if you visit Bohol. Diba, Queen? You're gonna meet them if they come here.
Yes, sir. Sure. Punta sila sa ano, cafe. Borderless cafe.
Oh yeah. By the way, we are soon opening the Borderless Cafe. So maybe before end of October, we would have the cafe running. So if you come here, we can accommodate you. And you can work here too. Maybe not sleep here, but maybe you can work here and find your own place to sleep. Anyways, where was I going with this? Okay, here, bank transactions. So in the bank transactions, if you go here in this tab, you will see bank feeds because most of the transactions from the banks are linked to QuickBooks Online already. So this is where what you do. You just simply categorize the transaction, right? So a lot of times people, when you look at, 555, this is received in the bank. A lot of times this is defaulted to sales, right? A lot of times these are defaulted to sales, right? Or sales receipt or whatever this here in category. But guys, you also have to look at the payee. Sometimes it shows in the memo, right? So that you would know how to better categorize it. And sometimes it's not in the bank feeds because it's like there's too much information contained. You have to wait for the bank statement to actually reflect what the transaction is about, right? So again, just because it's on the received side of the bank feeds, it's sales. It's not necessarily sales. There could be refunds. Okay. And if you make that mistake, again, you're overstating the sales, you're overstating your expenses, right? So if this was correct, this was entered correctly, it should be cash in bank and a credit to office equipment. So what happens to office equipment? It gets zeroed out, right? You debited the office equipment, you credited the office equipment, it's going to be zero. This is where your T accounts would look like, right? So if we are say office equipment here, and then you record this as 129, there was a debit to 500, and then there was a credit on 210 of 500, your office equipment would be zero, right? But if you don't make that correction, it would and if you continue to put that as a service income, then your this is not going to be here. So your office equipment will always have will continue to have a debit balance of 500. This is not correct. You get what I'm saying? So there could be a mistake of miscategorization, and that is very common, and that's the reason why I spend a lot in several minutes to emphasize this, because I've seen this a lot in real practice. Incorrect categorization of transactions, right? Make sense so far? Okay pa naman tayo? Not too much information. You're so good, right? JB, how do we match if the refund or bank deposits was a partial amount of the original amount purchased from Best Buy? Wouldn't it be difficult to categorize it, right? A good point, JB. There could be partial refunds, partial payments. And in those cases, this is where we need to, bakit ko nakikita ang mukha ni Diskaya Tinker Aquino sa aking monitor? Right. In those cases, and sometimes it's not even obvious on the bank statement, right? That is where we need to park those transactions. You can either park those as uncategorized expense, ask my accountant, categorize it, where let's say you have to have an account where it becomes your parking account. Anything that you're not sure about how to categorize, you put that into that account. It could be uncategorized expense, uncategorized income, ask my accountant, anything, right? And then what you do once you have compiled all those accounts, you send the client questions, right? It's through email or it could be a call. And this is the challenge for most accountants or most bookkeepers. Some some business owners are not responsive, right? They would not respond to you no matter how many times you ask, right? So the financials remain incorrect for a very long period of time. Saka na muna yan sila magre-respond sa inyo when the tax season comes in, right? And it may be too late, nakalimutan mo na, or it may be too late, nag-resign ka na sa kanya, iba na yung humawak, right? And that's where a mess is, you know, pag nag-pile up yan, it becomes a mess in the books, right? And a lot of business owners are doing that. That's why, again, we are encouraging virtual assistants to become bookkeepers, because virtual assistants have more relationship and more frequent communication than a bookkeeper, right? So imagine if you are doing if you're working as an assistant, a virtual assistant to a businessman, and you're also the bookkeeper, you would have the ability to communicate, ask questions with the client, and get a timely response, right? But it doesn't happen all the time because hindi naman lahat ng virtual assistants are trained to become bookkeepers. And again, if you can imagine, that's where your value will come into play, guys. That's where your value will come into play. So if you know virtual assistants out there, invite them to our class. This class will make them more expensive. I'm telling you. So question, Sharina Lynn. So Joanne, tama. Make a suspense account. Uncategorized expense, uncategorized income, ask my accountant. Those are example of suspense account. Thank you, Joanne. Sharina Lynn, what if the transaction doesn't have receipts or invoices from the client or email? Still make a suspense account, and if you don't get an answer from the client from either email or whatever, you don't have a source document, this is where your professional judgment comes into play, right? So you have the bank statement, but you don't clearly know what exactly it is, even if you've already researched or anything like that. This is where your professional judgment comes into play. You get what I'm saying? Professional judgment. So you decide what account to use to categorize that transaction. If it's a bank transaction involving a deposit and you don't know if it's a sale or a refund, use your best judgment. This is where yung principle of prudence, ano nga yung isang term na principality yung prudence? Prudence kasi natatanong ko bakit. Diba? We talked about the principle in the first few days of our session, where in a situation where there is a situation where versus income or expense, you would likely veer towards recording it as an expense so that you don't overstate income. And if there is a potential liability, you recognize liability rather than a contingent income. Conservatism. Thank you very much, guys. A lot of people are paying attention, or itong mga to ay mga seasoned accountants na din. So conservatism. So in our professional judgment, we use conservatism as well. If you're confused what to categorize it, if you realize it's going to bloat the income and you're not sure about it, you know, refrain from doing it, right? So just, you know, treat it as an expense or maybe a liability. And as you go along, when things get clearer, you may be able to find the answer as well as you go along. If not, then raise that with the tax accountant. Come the tax season, the tax accountant will make his best judgment on that as well. Okay? Or we can put a memo on the. Can we put a memo for the? Yes, of course, you can do that. Good question, Aya. You can put a memo on the QuickBooks account. So I'll show you. So if you record a transaction, you're not sure, like for example, this is an uncategorized income, just put a memo here, right? We'll inquire with owner about this transaction. Parking it to uncategorized income for now. You can do that. and they can just transaction so that you get reminded what that is about, right? Or put anything that would help you get a recollection about that particular transaction. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, excellent input, guys. Excellent questions. I love it. Now, so that's identifying discrepancies. Next is making adjustments. So in this step, make any necessary adjustments to rectify the identified discrepancies. This may involve correcting errors, adding missing entries, or reallocating transactions to the correct accounts. So sometimes this is again where an accountant's account knowledge in accounting will come into play, especially if yung books ay hindi gaya ng QuickBooks where you can make the changes right in QuickBooks, right? Sometimes the correction may need a journal entry, right? And if you're not knowledgeable about how to correct the wrong entry, then again, this is where I will come back to my earlier statement na mas pinagulo mo yung magulo ng situation, right? So the beauty of accounting is that if you make a mistake and you know how to correct that mistake, you can always correct that mistake, right? So there's always a way to correct a mistake. Ang problem lang, minsan, hindi natin alam nagkamali pala tayo, right? It happens. It happens to me too. It happened to me too multiple times. Is it possible to purchase an item through credit card, but the price of the item exceeds the card limit? I don't know. That's kung may existing limit ka sa card. But as far as accounting is concerned, if it nag-exceed na yung limit ng card mo, it still is a liability and it still is an expense. So you still have to record it nonetheless. Reconciling documents. Once all adjustments are made, ensure that the ledger journal entries match the documentation accurately. Document the reconciliation process and any changes made to provide a clear audit trail and reference for future analysis. Right. So when you make changes, be very, very careful too in QuickBooks. Sometimes when we do bank reconciliation, we may be tempted to delete transactions, right? Because we can delete transactions. However, there is an audit trail feature in QuickBooks. I'm not sure if it's working in this example. No, not here. See audit log. So there's an audit log in QuickBooks Online where the changes that were made can be attributed to a particular user, right? So if there are multiple users in the account, so let's say the bookkeeper from the owner, right? So, and then there are multiple bookkeepers, right? And minsan nag-argue tayo, ay hindi ko naman dinilit yan, right? But you actually deleted it. There's no way you can escape that because there's an audit log, right? So there's a log that would say who signed in at what time, what was the user, what this user did. So edited timesheet. Let's see what we did earlier. We added this deposit, $200, right? Earlier, that's what we did. But I'm not Craig. Craig is like, I don't know who Craig is. But this was the transaction that we did, right? Earlier. So that's the audit log, right? And you can also view that. You can also view that. But the point here is that when you make changes, you have to document that because in some situation, you may be working with multiple bookkeepers, right? Pag malaki na yung account. Or you can even be inquired from by the owner. So yeah, documentation is also a very good practice when you're doing books. Right, so my specific items now for T accounts. So effects of accounts on actions. So ito na, nag-focus pala siya David sa T accounts. So T accounts are a visual representation used in accounting to illustrate the flow of debits and credits. They consist of two sides. The left side represents debits and the right side represents credits, providing a clear picture of how transactions affect different accounts. Total debits and total credits for a transaction have to be balanced. All right, so let's try it out. What follows are transactions from Lou's paving business. Meron tayong dalawang Lou dito sa Borderless Accountant. Isang Lou na sa Qatar, ng isang Lou na meet ko sa Cebu. Wala lang, nirelate ko lang. So what follows a transaction from Lou's paving business? To assign debits and credits for each transaction, grab a piece of paper and use the T account method as a helpful tool. So kung meron kayong paper and pen, please grab that. We're going to be doing some exercises. In the following activities, use the drop-down menus to select the appropriate amounts. When you are finished, select Submit. So transaction number 1, invoice payment. So on May 8, Lou's paving business was paid $280 by a housing subdivision for paving their parking lot. How would you record this transaction? Right, so on the T account, transaction journal, Lou's paving business, May 8, the account is revenue. So this is the journal entry, right? This is the journal entry. So the transaction, again, we are going to be analyzing the transaction. This is the very first step. We don't do record, we analyze the transaction first. So May 8, Lou's paving business was paid $280. So Lou received $280, right? And what was that $280 for? Because Lou's business did paving of a parking lot of a customer, right? So Lou's business is a paving business, right? So si Lou naka-receive ng $280 for a service rendered to a customer. So now in the journal entry, binigyan na tayo ng revenue and cash as the accounts. What we just need to know is to determine, do we debit the revenue account or do we credit? And do we debit the cash or do we credit, right? So we go back to our analysis. What is revenue account? Revenue account is what is the normal balance for revenue? Is it debit? Is it debit or credit?
Credit.
Right? So
Credit.
in the transaction, Lou's revenue is increasing, correct? Because nag-render siya ng service, correct? So if
Yes,
revenue
po.
is credit, has a credit as a normal balance, do we debit the account or credit? So we credit, right? Because we are increasing the revenue, correct? Because if we debit, we are decreasing the, correct? So if we debit, mali na tayo. Hindi na natin na properly analyze yung transaction, correct? So that should be the right framing of mind, okay? So you credit your revenue because you're increasing your revenue by how much? 280. Your cash is what? What type of account? Is it asset, liability, equity, income, or expense?
Asset.
So it's asset, right? And in this case, si Lou received 280, meaning nag-increase yung kanyang cash, correct? So if cash is an asset, the normal balance of cash is debit. Therefore, to increase the cash account is to debit the cash account, correct?
Yes po.
All right. So hindi mo pwedeng sabihin debit na because nag-credit ka na eh. Hindi pwedeng ganun yung reasoning, right? Your reasoning should be, I'm debiting cash because the transaction says the business received cash, right? And I know that cash is an asset. And if I'm going to increase the asset, I'm going to debit it, right? Therefore, I'm debiting cash 280. That should be your framing of mind. Hindi pwedeng mag-guess-guess ka lang, right? Because if you don't frame it that way, you're not able to analyze the transaction properly. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then you submit. And let's find out. And mali pala tayo, no? Voila. Voila. And of course, the internet is not cooperating. I don't know why. Or hindi siya pwedeng masubmit. I don't know why. So debit should be NA.
NA.
Kailangan ng
NA
NA.
din. Kailangan ng NA. Ayun. So that's correct. Let's move along. Transaction 2, truck purchase. So again, truck purchase. Kung truck is an asset and it's a purchase. So magi-increase dapat yung truck. Now your question is, paano pinurchase yung, is it cash or account, right? So that's how you start to analyze the transaction. So you read further what the transaction is about. On July 10, Lou's paving business purchased a new truck for the business. Lou paid $2,000 cash deposit and obtained a loan for the remaining $30,000. How would you record this transaction? Right. So earlier I told you there is a simple transaction and there's compound transaction. This is one of those examples. Compound. right? This is what was in Asunction's mind yesterday when we talk about split. She was referring to compound entry like this, where there's multiple accounts involved in the transaction. It's more than just two, okay? So this is compound. Why? Because while Lou purchased a truck, the way she purchased the truck was that she made a down payment of 2,000, and then the remaining was a loan, 30,000. So therefore, the truck was worth 32,000. Correct?
Yes.
Does it necessarily follow that the truck is costing 32,000?
Yes
Yes.
po.
Right. So now, in your chart of accounts, hindi naman pwedeng mag-truck ka, right? The truck has to be specified accordingly. And that truck in the chart of accounts is property, plant, and equipment. You get what I'm saying? So that's how it's defined in the chart of accounts. So truck is an asset, or property, plant, equipment is an asset. We know that it's a purchase, so therefore the asset is increasing, right? The asset is increasing, therefore we're going to be debiting it, correct? So the question is how much? How much do we credit or debit the truck for? It's 32,000. Again, because there's a 2,000 down payment and 30,000 loan. So credit natin is NA. Now cash. Cash is an asset, right? Again, the normal balance for cash is debit, right? But in this case, Lou made a cash deposit, and where did Lou make this deposit? Obviously to the dealer of the truck, right? You get what I'm saying? So it was delivered to it was deposited to the account of the truck dealer. In this case, nag-increase ba yung cash ni Lou or nag-decrease? What's your answer?
Decrease po.
Chris.
Decrease.
Kasi nga, nagbayad siya, right? Now, if we decrease the asset account whose normal balance is debit, what do? We credit, correct? Kasi nga, binawasan natin yung. So therefore, we credit the account by how much? Is it 2,000 or NA? 2,000, right? Kasi lang naman yung deposit niya. Right? And then cash, in the debit side, we put that NA. And hindi pa tayo tapos. Kasi nga, ang remaining balance ng truck ay inutang ni Lou, right? So, utang is loans payable, right? Loans payable is a liability account. Anong normal balance ng liability? Credit, correct? And every time you credit a liability account, you are increasing the account, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Right? So therefore, we are going to be crediting the 30,000 and then debiting the NA, right? Is this a correct transaction?
Yes, correct.
Po. That's correct po.
Right. And this is a classic example of a compound entry. You have one debit and two credits. There's a compound entry. It happens. And it's normal. So let's
Yes,
submit, and that's correct. All right. Last transaction, hopefully. Para akala ko tatapos tayo ng hindi pala. Parang hindi ata. 15 minutes na lang. Ang dami ko kasing kwento, no? Parang hindi na ako magkwento dapat. Anyway, transaction journal. Lou's paving business, August 23. Ano ba ito? So asset naman. On August 23rd, Lou's paving business purchased a new handheld compactor. Ano ba yung compactor? I don't know what that is. Handheld compactor. Lou paid $2,599 in cash for this piece of equipment. How would you record this transaction? Right. So simple transaction lang. Isang debit, isang credit. So you analyze. What did she purchase? A compactor. What is a compactor? It's a property, plant, and equipment. So that's what she gets, right? Therefore, it should increase, right? Because that's what she's getting. Therefore, you're going to debit the property, plant, and equipment account. Correct?
Yes.
Are you guys able to follow? So you debit that amount.
Yes.
And in this case, she purchased the equipment in cash. So nabawasan yung cash ni Lou by that amount, $25.99, right? So you're not gonna debit your cash, correct? Kasi kapag dinebit mo yan, mag-i-increase yung cash. And hindi rin naman siya pwede kasi debit ka ng credit, right? So in this case, you are crediting the cash because the cash is decreasing, right? Kasi pinambayad mo siya ng equipment. So puro asset account, remember? These are puro asset account. Property, plant, and equipment is an asset. Cash is also an asset. But they were recorded differently. One is a debit and one is a credit. Bakit? PPE is increasing whereas cash is decreasing. So in your accounting equation, yung left side lang yung may effect, right? But they're offsetting. May nabawasan yung cash ng 2599, nag-increase naman ng 2599 yung asset, right? So zero lang yung effect. You get what I'm saying? It's called offsetting. Nag-offset lang yung impact ng transaction sa overall asset account. Are you able to follow me so far? Let's hit submit, and that is correct. Making sense so far? How the transactions are recorded, how the normal balances are used in terms of your analysis in recording the transaction? Right. Question ni Emma. Sorry ha guys if may mga question akong nami-miss out kasi I'm not looking at the chat regularly. Emma, once an account is already been used in recording transactions and it was already been posted, can we no longer delete the entry? I don't know if it's the same with QBO. So if the account is already used in a transaction and it was, and we can no longer delete the entry, in QBO, you can always delete an entry, right? Unless the books is closed, right? So if the books is not yet closed, you can delete the entry, or you may not need to delete the entry if it's not really duplicate, because you will only delete if it's duplicate. But if it's not duplicate, the reason why you want to delete the entry is because it was an incorrect entry. You can just correct it. You can correct the amount if the amount was entered incorrectly. You can change the account in the drop down if it was incorrect categorization. You don't need to delete. You will only delete if, again, it was a duplicate transaction, right? And the answer to Emma's question is that if it's it can no longer be deleted, you may not be able to delete it because the accounts is already, the book is already closed. But if you're the bookkeeper, you have the ability to reopen the books. Pwede naman yun, right? Or if it's already closed, meaning the period in question is already over, meaning 2024, tapos nag-crossover na to 2025, you don't want to correct the mistake in 2024, then you can always make an adjusting journal entry in 2025. You get what I'm saying? But generally, in QuickBooks Emma, you can delete the transaction or you can edit the transaction to correct if it was a mistake. I hope that made sense and I was able to answer.
Recording in progress.
Testing environment, right? When you generate a report in the testing environment, you have to determine if it's a cash basis or accrual basis. And usually, the accounting method is elected by the tax payer. How do you know if you're bookkeeping for the tax client or for a client and you want to know if it's bookkeeping or accrual? One way you can find out is look at the prior tax return. So prior tax return, it will be indicated there if the client is using cash or accrual method of accounting. So if you go to profit and loss statement, maybe balance sheet. Give me 1 second. Let me just transition it back. So I really just want to show you this because you have to be very careful about this, right? You have to be generating financial reports appropriately. If you're a bookkeeper and the owner or the tax preparer reach out to you and ask for the financial statements, you may want to ask if what accounting basis is needed for that tax return. So I'll show you. See here, this is accrual basis, right? It's gonna show, right? When you send this report to the taxpayer, to tax preparer, the tax preparer would know if you generated the report in accrual basis. And what if the tax preparer is preparing a cash basis? Then I would have to come back to you and tell you, hey, bookkeeper, provide me a financial statement that is in cash basis, right? And how do you do that? You just change it here. Specify it as cash. Why is it not letting me? So here, just change it to cash. So see here, there's accounts receivable, right? Because we generated this by accrual. But wait, sorry. Let's look at what happens if we change this to cash, right? So we run the report and check what happens to your accounts receivable. It's gone, right? And then you would see here that this report was generated in cash basis, right? Because again, cash basis method of accounting is you record revenue when cash is received, right? So kung nagserbisyo ka na, nag-provide ka na ng bookkeeping service to a client and you have not received cash yet, you have not received income, right? Wala kang AR, hindi ka mag-i-invoice, right? So you'd only receive income or recognize income once you receive the cash, right? So again, it will not show you accounts receivable nor accounts payable if you're using the cash method. Everything is recorded when it happens, right? And cannot be used if you offer credit or have inventory. So that's why pag may inventory yung account ng client, most likely accrual yung gagamitin, right? Kaya may provision yan si IRS na kapag ang business ay may inventory, they have to elect accrual method of accounting, right? And because of its simplicity, cash basis accounting is a favorite of small businesses. However, because you are tracking future transactions, it doesn't always give a full picture of income and expenses. It's more of a snapshot of the business activity. Right? Kasi itong walang matching principle ang nangyayari dito. Right? Anyway, so let's play this video.
Most of my small business clients love the simplicity of cash basis accounting. Take Carmine, a talented makeup artist. He just keeps track of his payments and expenses as they happen. No complicated calculations, just straightforward recording. With a quick glance, Carmine can see where his money stands. It's easy for clients to grasp, but for bookkeepers, it's a tad trickier than accrual counting. Cash basis accounting lacks accounts payable and receivable, leaving clients unaware of what they owe or expect to receive. That's where we bookkeepers come in. We track bills, invoices, and create cash flow reports and projections. These reports are gold for clients, showing the money from point A to point B, highlighting anticipated changes in account balances and providing insights. Cash basis accounting also brings a tax advantage. Small businesses only pay taxes on money that's actually in their bank account, not on hypothetical earnings. It's easier to explain to clients what they're paying taxes on when they can clearly see their income and expenses. The net income, which is their income minus expenses, becomes their taxable amount. Clear and simple. Of course, cash basis accounting isn't suitable for everyone. If your client extends credit to customers, deals with inventory, or worries about future transactions, accrual accounting is necessary. Cash basis provides a snapshot of your client's current accounts rather than the full picture. Still, most clients find it refreshingly straightforward and choose to embrace its simplicity.
Okay. So if I may share, most of the clients are using, especially mga small businesses, they're using cash method of accounting, right? If you're preparing a personal tax return, Schedule C, Schedule D, these are usually prepared using the cash basis, right? But as a business grows, saka muna sila nag-i-elect to accrual, right? So most of the time, nakikita nyo cash basis. Okay. So knowledge check tayo. Question mo, JR, we're getting into the woods about your question. It's about managing AR already. No worries, because there is a separate lesson in this QBO course about managing customers and vendors. Okay, so mag-wait na lang tayo to expound on your question. For the time being, let's just follow the accounting cycle muna. So which statement accurately describes cash basis accounting? Okay, which statement accurately describes cash basis accounting? Is it revenues and expenses are recorded when earned or incurred, regardless of when cash is received or paid? This is accrual, right? This is the very definition of accrual. So it cannot be correct. It cannot be the correct answer. Revenues and expenses are recognized on financial reports when cash is received or paid rather than when work is performed. So this may be right, but let's look for the best answer. Revenues and expenses are reported based on the market value of goods and services exchanged. This is very complex. This looks like a revaluation involved. So this is not likely the correct answer. Then finally, revenues and expenses are recognized on financial reports when work is performed, regardless of when cash is received or paid. This is also the definition of accrual. So the correct answer must be what? B, right? Everyone's agreeing that the correct answer is B. Revenues and expenses are recognized on financial reports when cash is received or paid rather than when work is permitted. That's the very definition of cash, right? Cash basis, cash kung may na-receive kang income, right? And then cash kung nagbayad ka ng expense, right? As simple as that. So that could be our answer. Let's find out if we're correct. And we are correct. So 3 minutes na, hinihingal na ako. I thought I'm gonna be able to finish the entire thing in today's session, but we failed. But it's okay. Hindi naman kayo na-overwhelmed, hindi naman kayo feeling shortchanged today. Marami naman kayong natutunan, right? So we're able the accounts, and then we're able to demonstrate making sure that we categorize transactions properly, right? Those are really, really important stuff. And I'm sorry if I gave some stories about that. Yeah, sometimes I just get too excited. But we're good, right? John says you're a great teacher. Talaga ba? I feel like is the term this person's working for me, right? So when the person says, "Oh, this work," Kelly, for example, Kelly and Andre are working for me because I'm their manager, right? And for me, that's really also very foul sounding because it's not good to hear, right? They're not working for me, but they're working with me. You know what I mean? So there's a difference there. They're not working for me, but they're working with me. A little tweak in the word that you use can change the meaning of the word, right? Or the can change the thought of what you're trying to say. So yeah, I'm giving it my best because again, one of you, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, I don't know. As we go along, we may be working with each other. And when I look for future people who are going to work in the team, I would not look elsewhere, right? I will never look elsewhere. I will look right here, right? So that's why I'm giving it my best, giving what it takes to give you the best learning as much as I could, right? So, and even if you are not going to end up working with us, then you will have the confidence to be able to get out, and apply for any position or any firm because I really would want to give you the best training possible that will make you employable by firms. You know what I mean? Because yun lang naman yung hanap natin, di ba? It could be employment or it could also be an actual practice na yung hindi tayo na-employ pero tayo yung nagdidirect na nagsiserve sa client. That could also be possible. It can be possible for you, right? So that's our goal for everybody, right? Na eventually we will be in a position maybe not 5 years, not in 6 months to a year. Ang mga kwento nyo ay about how you started at Borderless Accountants, right? Now you're earning dollars. I would love to hear that story, right? So, and I know it's gonna become a possibility. I know deep in my heart, and in my very core that you will succeed. Lalo na nandito kayo everyday, lalo na nagpa-participate kayo, lalo na you give it your best as well, the same way that I'm giving my best to teach you guys. You're gonna succeed. It's gonna be a matter of time that you will experience success, right? And so yayaman ang mga members ng Borderless Accountants. I'm telling you, I know it will happen. So just hang in there. If you feel like, oh God, I don't want to hear Chris every day, it's just terrible. His voice is just terrible. Like I don't like his stories and all, but you have to bear with me unless may ibang gustong magturo, right? And that's perfectly fine with me. Otherwise, you're stuck with me. All right. And so, having said that, it's 9:01. Thank you guys for the day session. Tapusin natin yung step 2 ng accounting cycle tomorrow. I hope we can finish that tomorrow. Promise, babawasan ko yung kwento. And so again, thank you for today. If you want to catch on the replays YouTube, there's the replay in YouTube. And what else? I guess that's it. Thank you guys for today. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. May review ba ng ano ngayon?
Thank you.